It's so good to see you. I want to zero right in on this gospel, and we're not going to do the worthless slaves part. That's for another time. I leave it to your lectionary Bible study to take a beat on that one, because I can't walk away from the mustard seed. I wonder if everybody here has ever seen a mustard seed. It was years before I did. They're really small. They're kind of yellow. They're round. You think of a poppy seed, like the little black seeds you maybe get on a bagel. Okay, go a tiny bit bigger. If an ant had a bowling ball that fit, it'd be the size of a mustard seed, right? Really tiny. And Jesus, in another passage, commented on the mustard seed and its ability to turn into a magnificent tree. But in this image, he's talking about having faith the size of a mustard tree being sufficient to move a tree of the same size. Now, your translation says mulberry tree. I'm going to bet it was a sycamore that he was referencing. The translation from the Greek is a little weird. And a sycamore you have around here. Their trunks are immense. The trunks are actually, to my eye, a little ugly. They go gray and huge swaths of bark peel off them as they grow. So they have these big, not that attractive spots. But their branches, oh my. A sycamore branch can reach out for feet and feet and feet above a sidewalk into a yard. The leaves are immense. They're great for shade. And to hold up all that weight, they have to have extremely long roots as well. So to pick one of those up and land it in the sea so that it grows there would take enormous strength and skill. Jesus said, if you have this much faith, you could do that. Not that you'd want to, but you could, right? You could. Now, he says this just after the disciples have asked him to increase their faith, make their faith bigger. And so the mustard seed's a subtle correction. It's like he's saying, well, you don't need more faith, you just need the right kind. You need some of this stuff, just a drop of the right kind of faith. And then unbelievable things can happen. Now, this isn't the only time that the disciples asked Jesus to increase their faith, and usually it happened when they had experienced some kind of failure. They went out on mission and there was a demon they couldn't cast out, and they had to take the poor kid to Jesus and say, and he called them, O ye of little faith. That's the translation we've used for so many years. A better translation would be weak. It's not that you don't have enough faith, it's that your faith is weak. Small is good, but it needs to be strong. It needs to be strong. We move our arms with these tiny muscles, some of them, that work in the back of our shoulders. I had a frozen shoulder last year, and the physical therapist put his finger and says, is that it? I turned it to muscle this big. My whole arm needs it to move. It has to be strong. It has to be strong. So how are you going to strengthen your faith? You're going to make it deeper. You're going to make it stronger. And yes, some of this is up to you. We have faith by grace, we say. We understand that God gives us everything, but the great paradox is it doesn't help to have everything if you don't do anything with it. The power, the superpower, if you will, that we need to live a faithful Christian life is given to us in baptism and given to us through the prayers of our teachers, our parents, our grandparents, our community. It's given and given and given. But if you never open the present, you won't even know that it's there. Won't even know that it's there. And you have to fail with it a few times. Maybe lots of times. I mean, the way Luke has this organized, when the disciples asked Jesus to increase their faith, he's just told them that they need to forgive people who've offended them over and over and over. It's like he's saying 99.99999% of the time you're going to forgive, especially if the other person has apologized. And we're like, yeah, who can do this? Who can do this? He's saying you can when your faith is strong. So what do you do to make your faith strong? Sort of the obvious things. We expose ourselves to Jesus' teaching. We get used to hearing it. We listen to the hard parts and the ones we disagree with and the ones that don't make any sense, like calling ourselves a worthless slave. We parse it out and we set aside the things that we don't understand yet. And we really hunker down with the things that feel like they're speaking to us. Every now and then, a line, a verse, a phrase will come through, and it will be as if you've been tapped on the head and say, read that again. Read that again. It might just be a phrase. Commit your way unto the Lord, and he will bring it to pass. It might just be that. Spend some time with the text, meaning what Jesus said, and actually what Paul said. Those letters are full of the best advice. Again, you have to read, and set aside the things that you really have a problem with and go for the things that seem to speak to you today, because you have lots of time to read the rest. Second thing, don't think that you have to be a certain kind of person to live a faithful Christian life. We make this mistake a lot, especially if we've seen a person whose living faith we really admire. Some of you here, people have been copying and trying to match because of your good works, and you know who you are, maybe, but don't let it get to your head. Being around people who are advanced in good works and who have really worked on their lives of prayer and have this sort of deep faith, don't measure yourself by them. That's like saying, well, I've never run before, but I want to be as good as this guy who's doing the marathon in 4 weeks. You couldn't go running tomorrow morning and expect to do the New York Marathon a month from now, could you? No. You would have to take it up one step at a time and build up your strength and work and get help and think about it and plan for it. And yeah, you might get there, but the marathon is not your starting point. Putting on your shoes is. Putting on your shoes. So if we want to deepen our faith, one thing we want to do is step back and say, well, what stops me? I think it would be a good idea to pray for a minute every morning before I went to school, went to the bus, went to work, got behind the wheel of the car. I think that would be a good thing. That's enough. 30 seconds. You put a Post-it note on the wheel of the car. You stick it on your mirror. It's a short prayer that you like. It's, Lord, have mercy. Or, dear God, tell me what I need to know. Tell me what you want me to do. Short, easy, and you do it every day. Try to do it at the same time and at the same place, and if that isn't working, then you pick a different time, different place. And when you miss it, you do it anyway the next time, right? You don't say, well, that didn't work. Over. Not doing it. People who are trying to break powerful habits of long-standing eventually learn that if you mess up, you have to start. You have to resume. You're not starting over because you learned a lot from trying before. It took me 6 times to stop smoking. I used to say, yeah, I can stop. I've already done it 4 times. Right? But I didn't give up ultimately. I tried anew. I picked up where I'd left off. I gathered what I'd learned from the past failed attempts, and I got at it again. So you don't have to be a certain kind of person to do this. You don't have to measure up to somebody else's life of prayer or somebody else's expectations. You do need to ask yourself, who am I? Where am I? What works for me? What tiny thing can I do that could grow into something big the way the mustard seed grew into a giant tree? There's a great book by B.J. Fogg called Tiny Habits, and what I'm telling you right now is straight out of that book. Where you find the obstacle and you work on that little obstacle, like you haven't gotten up early enough in the morning to review your notes before you get to the office, so you set your alarm 5 minutes earlier. If it doesn't work, you set a second alarm. Or you do the notes another time, but you get the point. You find the tiny thing that will move you as a first step in the direction that you want to go. And you're building a muscle memory. Now this sounds a lot like a sort of self-help talk. In that sense, it really is. But Jesus needs us strong. Jesus needs us in good shape. Jesus needs us with healthy habits, whether it's trying to get enough sleep or eating the right foods or putting down the bottle or stopping smoking or whatever. Jesus needs us strong. And so the good works that we really want to do that are intended for us are like the right leg, and the left leg has got to be the prayer that supports it all, right? Because we're not doing this by ourselves. Never doing this by ourselves. The will has to come from within, yes? Of course it does, but it's already been there since the beginning. It's just our willingness to open it and say, oh, okay, this may be what it is. I've been watching way too much British murder mysteries. I bet I have some fellow travelers here. Lewis, who was the assistant to Inspector Morse, remember Lewis? We just finished out his series, and he had an assistant named Hathaway. Well, Hathaway is sitting at his bedside, the bedside of his father, who may or may not be dying, but has serious brain troubles and so can't really understand. But James sits and reads to him anyway. And I was stunned in the final episode when James read a line I'd never heard from Gerard Manley Hopkins. And so Christ plays on in 1,000 faces, not his own. And so Christ plays on in 1,000 faces, not his own. It's from a poem about a kingfisher, a great black and white bird. And the gist of the poem is that we are who we're made to be. And yet by being who we're meant to be, we show the face of Christ. Christ plays in 1,000 faces, not his own. Each of the faces before me today is one of those faces of Christ. May you be brilliant at it. May you take the first step and then the next, and find God blessing you along the way.